Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles.
Today we're going to do, I hope, this is officially our last lesson. We're not going to finish chapter 5. There is no way we're going to finish chapter 5. Okay? Well, I'll move quickly through what I have, but the ending is substantial. And it shifts gears. So I think that's where we're going to be. We now know where we will begin after Pesach. It will be the second part of chapter 5. I'll give you the exact verses later. But now what we're going to do is go through the chapter. We began last week, but we only did one verse. We're going through it systematically. Remember, the last thing we did was to analyze the chiasm, right? A, B, C, X, C, B, A. And we bounce back and forth to see how one piece related to the other. Now we're going to go through seriatim according to the order of the verses. All right. And we're not going to focus so much on that structure. However, we will be focusing on internal structures and wording in each verse. Okay, Gabrielle, are you holding your hand up because it's not well?
I
raising your hand.
No, I'm not raising my hand. I have to. It's easier for me to put my hand up and have less pain because I had a carpal tunnel surgery, and so putting my.
If you want to raise your hand without pushing the button, you just open your hand. That's all.
If she has a question or something you have to say, she'll have to raise her left hand.
Well, she has a green hand, but only the yellow hand counts.
Okay.
The yellow hand. The yellow hand is the one on
the yellow hand. That's right. Yes. All right. So here we go. Verse 1 of chapter 5, just very quickly. So this establishes the fact that he's beginning with a dirge, okay? Shimur hadavar hazer shenochi nosei aleichem kina beit Yisrael. So, here, this word that I like this word, intone as a dirge over you, O house of Israel. And then, so this is the next line. And you could actually, if you closed your eyes and plugged in, I'll try it. It sounds like it came from the book of Eicha, from Lamentations. Nafla lo tosif kohum petulat Yisrael nicha alav mataha ein mekimaha. All right, that just the order, the way things are laid out, the sounds, the mode, the mood. It is, you would think it was from Eicha, but it's not. Okay, fallen, not to stand up again, is the virgin Israel. Okay, she's been abandoned on her soil, and there is no one to lift her up. All right, obviously a metaphor for Israel that has been pummeled by. This is a lament, right? A dirge in anticipation. Hasn't happened yet, right? But this is what's going to happen. That's the whole point. So what's the meaning of Betula? What is a Betula?
A young woman.
Could be a young woman,
or a virgin. It could be a virgin, but it's really a young woman.
Yes, right. So it could be one or the other. Yes. Okay. And so why is the metaphor here that of a young woman? What does that imply?
No defense.
Huh?
No defense.
But also a devaluation because, or maybe this is too rabbinic, because an unmarried woman has a higher bride price in a kasuba.
No, but she's a Betula. She is a Betula.
No, that's what
I'm married.
No, but if she is but the fallen doesn't mean that she's no longer.
No, it means that she's just there.
She's helpless.
She's helpless.
She can't be picked up.
Okay. On whom is the Batulah dependent?
Her father.
Parents.
Her father. He's not there. That's the point. He's gone. So who would be theoretically the next person who could potentially be her caregiver, her
husband,
Hashem,
her husband? Yeah. So in other words, and so she's a Batulah. She could have been betrothed, and she's still a Batulah, right? After they have intercourse, then of course then she's no longer Batulah. But a ketubah is I'm speaking rabbinically. Of course, this doesn't apply here, but there is a sense though that if you are betrothed to someone, there's someone else who could care for you. But in this case, there's no one. All right. Now, it's a metaphor. So who is the Batulah?
Israel.
And who is the potential, who should have been the husband?
Hashem, no?
Say it.
Hashem.
God. Hashem. Exactly. God would.
Why isn't Hashem the father?
No, Hashem would be, no, because the metaphors that he uses.
I get that. I'm just kind of going, how come
No, he's not
all of these.
No, here that metaphor is not you. It's God. There's supposed to be a covenant between the two, right? But the fact is, because the covenant was broken, God is not there to protect. In fact, God is going to be the force here for severe punishment.
Is there any relationship between this what we're reading right now, and what's the prayer on Friday night before you go into the evening service, before you go into
Kabbalat Shabbat, yeah.
Yeah, that oh my God, I'm blanking, and we sang it.
Lechadodi. Yeah, Lechadodi Likrat Kala. Yeah, she's the bride. Well, in a sense, that's right, because yes, that's a mystical poem, and of course in Kabbalah, there's no question. Shabbat represents the intense intimacy between I'll use this term, Adonai and Malka and Malchut or Shekhinah, right? Yeah. The male and female elements of the lower part of the 10 Sfirot. And there's a bond that takes place at that point in time. And that's the whole reason why, according to Zohar, husbands and wives are supposed to have, it's more in Shulchan Aruch, husbands and wives are supposed to have sex on Erev Shabbat or on Shabbat, because that energy strengthens the bond of love and commitment. Okay, so yes, but that's the whole point. Remember, in the Mizrahi and mystical oriented traditions, you read Shir HaShirim after Mincha on late Friday as you go into Shabbat. Because, again, that's the love, Rabbi Akiva said, that relationship is the love between God and Israel. And that is a covenantal love. So what this is telling us is God's not there because Israel broke the covenant, so God's not obligated.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. In fact, God ultimately is going to be the punisher. I mean, that's what this is all
That's
about.
why the dirge, the word dirge.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Is that now your hand is up?
Oh, no, definitely.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
It's the wrong hand.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry about that.
Right. Leon.
I find also some sexual connotations here. You have Betulav and Nitsha al Adama, al Admata. And it seemed to me that, the visual is thrown out, on the ground, available.
Yes. I that's right. She was tossed. That's right. I mean, because in her status now, it's not she's worthless. She's not worth anything. There's no one there who's going to use her, right? She could be a maidservant. She could become a household servant, a Betula can work in a home. But there are no homes. There are no people. There's nothing. She's just there, presumably still alive. Okay? And so, in a sense, but I think what's going on, what's being expressed here is that it is, on the one hand, a description of, it's a metaphor for what's going to happen, and Israel will be this abandoned. And so when the enemy comes, what's the enemy going to do? Scoop her up, and who knows what, right? She's not dead. There's no assumption that she's dead. Doesn't say that.
She's defenseless against anything.
So she will become what happened to women who were found.
Yeah, they became taken instead of killed.
Yeah, they could become anything. We don't know. That's the whole point. But I sense also here the fact that it's a dirge. A dirge is associated with mourning. Don't forget that. And a kina, there is emotional pain here on the part of the person who is saying it. And I think what Amos is saying here now is that he, as a prophet, knowing what's going to happen, he is saddened. He's profoundly sad that this is all happening. So he's not, in other words, as a human being, it's not just that he's filled with anger about all this. He's sad. It pains him to think that this is how this whole thing is going to end up. Okay? Yeah. And so that sort of, it feeds into the next line in the sense that, okay, verse 3. So, and again, let me see, there's a second aspect of sorrow. Just checking my notes. And he's filled with sorrow that when, after what we've read, Israel has gotten a whole bunch of warnings and nothing happened. And that saddened him. Everybody would have thought all those bad things that we read about in the previous chapter, right? All those bad things that happened. And the point was, didn't have any impact. They continued to do for which they were punished for those. And hence the big one is now going to come. But he's sad that they did not grab the opportunity to change their ways. And so this is it. It's going to happen. Then it goes on. Kicho Amar Adonai Elohim. Right? So then Adonai Elohim said, Ha'ir hayotzeit elef tash'ir me'ah. V'hayotzeit me'ah tash'ir asara levet Yisrael. Okay? Thus says Adonai Elohim. Again, that's that. We talked about that. It should be, originally it was Adonai Yud He Vav He. Well, it is that. But Adonai meant my master, or our master, Yud He Vav He. But now it's all the way it's like it should be. It's read. When you read it, when you read this thing with the trope, it's Adonai Elohim, right? Adonai Elohim, because the vocalization is the vocalization of Elohim under Yud He Vav He. All right, but that's just a later, switch around, whatever. Okay, so this is what happens. Why is there nobody around to take care of her? Because the enemy has come and decimated the population of the town. Right? We talked about this last time.
We don't know if they've decimated it all. They may have just taken all the women and killed all the men.
No, it doesn't. We don't know. But all it says is 10% of the population.
We don't know.
But we do know that only 10% of the population was left. That's what this is saying, right? That's what this is saying. It's 90% loss of population. And the fact is that that's what the Assyrians did. And this is a foreshadowing of the Assyrian policy to take out large numbers of the indigenous population. Remember, we talked about this. And to replace it with people from other places so that there's no attempt to rebel later. And these people who were taken out, they were just dispersed among the nations. Goodbye, go here. They were sent to all kinds of different places. So there's no body to rebel. Okay. So that just further says it. So there's nobody around who's going to take care of her. Okay. And I'm going to assume that that the Assyrians, who had already begun to make certain moves in the middle of the 8th century, their reputation must have been known. I mean, this was a guy who knows a lot about what's going on in the area, and so he probably knew exactly what was going to happen. And of course, he hit the nail right on the head, because that's exactly what happened 20 years later, 20, 30 years later, when they did come in. It's exactly what they did. The percentages of the population shift, we don't know what it was. Okay, we just don't know. Okay. All right. So there we go. All right. Now the next section, which we talked about in greater depth, is so that was the first element of the chiasm. That was the A element. I'm just reminding you, this is the B element now. So seek God and live. Remember, we talked about the fact that this picks up, it's very similar to Psalm 34, which those of us who studied together the Psalms, this notion of seeking God, lidrosh, and as we will see later on, good and evil, these themes he's picking up on here. We don't know whether or not he read Psalm 34. We don't know when Psalm 34 was written. Maybe it was written around the same time, and these were sort of the ideas that were floating around at that time in Israel. Don't know. But it's the same. It's a very similar concept. And again, this notion of seeking God that appears to be it could be a kind of an Israelite wisdom message that you'd find in places like Mishle, that type of a place. There's the wisdom. Chokhmah teaches us to seek God. It's the thing to do, right? And of course, they didn't. That's the whole point. They didn't. And so he's saying the best thing is seek God. And what does that mean? How do you seek God? How do you demonstrate your seeking of God? How do you do it?
Through prayer?
No.
And doing good deeds. Doing good deeds.
Right. That's close.
Being righteous, being righteous.
Righteousness.
And honest.
That's the whole point. Look at the next one. All right? Remember this. Al tidrashu Beitel, v'ha Gilgal atavo, u'Beersheva lo ta'avoru, right? Don't seek out Beitel, or don't go to Gilgal, and don't pass over to Beersheba. Okay? And what's those three places have in common? Beitel?
Bad places?
Or what?
Bad people? Bad people?
Well, yeah, not necessarily.
No, Bethel is where Jacob had the pillow.
What?
Jacob had his pillow on the stone.
But what are the three of them? What do the three places?
They had shrines. They
were shrines.
They were shrines. That's what I got.
Yes.
Shrines.
They were places where you could offer sacrifices. That's the common.
But they were also not Deuteronomy.
Why?
From Deuteronomy. I mean, they were prescribed.
No, of course. But right. But at this point, he's just using that as examples of places not to go to. Now, he recognizes the fact, by the way, that Beersheba is not in Israel. How do we know that? Look what it says. Beersheba lo ta'avoru. What does that mean? La'avor means to
go
cross the
pass through it.
To cross over.
Cross over, yeah.
What are you going to cross over?
A river.
No.
Oh, no river there.
No rivers there.
The
boundary, exactly.
Right.
The boundary, the southern boundary of Israel, northern boundary of Judah. Got to cross over because the Beersheba is where? In the middle of the desert.
Right.
Very far south. But there was, we know that. I mean, the archaeology found the shrine there. It was, absolutely. So he's making this point, don't even go there. Okay, interestingly, what's not mentioned as a place potentially to go?
Jerusalem,
right. doesn't say don't go to Jerusalem. It's not on his list. So I'm going to go back to what Leon said.
Okay.
The common denominator of these three places is according to Deuteronomy, they would be considered to be a bama,
What?
an illegitimate shrine.
Shrine, altar.
The whole thing is illegitimate because there's only one place where you have to go in order to give legitimate sacrifices, and that is
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. That's Deuteronomy. Okay, so that's 620. That's over 100 years after. But I'm going to ponder the thought that at this time, based upon very, very weak evidence, which is this verse, that perhaps Amos, and maybe there were a group of people. Remember, he's from Judah, right? He's not he's a southerner. And that temple in Jerusalem for them was sacrosanct. I mean, regardless of what was going on. And at that point, it's interesting. The attempts to, the focus on problems within the temple itself had not yet emerged, at least were not written down. It's only a little bit later, during the rule of Hezekiah, when Isaiah was his court prophet. That's quite a dynamic duo, right? Hezekiah was the first king who tried to consolidate all the worship in Jerusalem and to close down these bamot. Okay? Unfortunately, he couldn't finish the job because the Assyrians came back. And he was faced with holding them off. That was a big headache. I mean, and he didn't succeed completely because they conquered cities like Lachish around the year 700. So he had a big headache there. So he could not follow up on his plan. But it says in the book of Kings, he took pagan stuff he took the Nechashton out of the temple. What's the Nechashton?
Idol? No.
Well, it became one. It's mentioned in Book of Numbers. Moses, when they get bitten, remember they're in the wilderness.
Nachash, yeah.
They rebel again. This is after the bad stuff. These are continuous little rebellions. They rebelled. God sent poisonous snakes. And God says, make a snake out of bronze. All right, hold it up. And when they look at it, they will be healed. That's what it says in the book of Numbers. And eventually that's tied in with this snake image that was in the temple. Clearly it had some kind of divine association. So it effectively became, or was from the get-go, an idol. And it may be that story of Moses was at a point in time when that thing was still in operation. Who knows? But that's what they say. Rashi is totally embarrassed by that. If you read Rashi's comment on that in the book of Numbers, you know what he says? It's not that the Nachash, this bronze snake, could heal you. It is when you look up. Who do you look up to?
To Hashem.
God. It focuses your attention on God. And then you're reminded, oh yes, God is up there. So therefore, nothing to do with the snake itself. That's Rashi. All right. But the point is, so my point is, if clearly 30 years after Amos, and he died around 10 years, I think, after this, around 740, something like that. Nobody knows for sure. But he may have been a precursor for this. In other words, he may have looked to Jerusalem, knowing that there were other centers around, including these guys, including he may have known that down there in Beersheba, not further east from Beersheba, there was another one that was standing, another shrine in another fortress, okay, at Arad. You can go and see it, literally. You can go to Arad and see the shrine. You've heard me say this before. That's where you have the two standing stones, one for God and one for God's consort, Gveret God. Okay?
Good. I like that.
Verit God, yes. All right. Anyhow, so I mean, it's possible that he doesn't mention it because he doesn't want to put Jerusalem in the same category. And remember, Jerusalem is right around the corner from Beit El. I mean, it's a half day's walk, if that, right? It's about 30 miles south. That's it. And in fact, why did Jeroboam build up Beit El and make it into a big center with 2 golden calves? Because he wanted his people on the southern part by the border with Judah not to go to Jerusalem. It says so in the book of Kings. That's why he put it there. Okay. So anyway, perhaps it was anathema to him. Perhaps it was. All right. There's something else that's very interesting. Look at, excuse me. So you have here, I'm not there yet. Never mind. I'm jumping ahead.
Why? I don't quite understand. You're not supposed to seek Bethel or Gilgal or Beersheba, and then it says the reason is that Gilgal is going to go into exile, and Bethel shall become a delusion. In other words, it didn't exist apparently, but nothing about Beersheba. Why is Beersheba not included in that?
I don't know. It may be because of the structure of the line.
Oh,
okay. If you look in verse 5, right?
That's where I was reading.
No, but right. Yeah, I know. But the first part of it, though, there's right, and so it's a 3-2 structure. Okay, he can make it, and he has a word play here that apparently Beersheba doesn't fit into, because look, he says Gilgal Galo Yigleh. You hear it? Gilgal Galo Yigleh. Right, it's a word play. Gimel Lamed, Gimel Lamed, Gimel Lamed. And then Beit El will become Avin. So El switches to, which is, of course, the house of God. Avin, the last word beginning with an aleph, is sin. Or it could also mean nothingness. So, I mean, he's doing word plays, and I think it may be simply Beersheba doesn't fit.
And why is it Ha-Gilgal, but it's not Ha-Beit El, and I don't think it's Beersheba. Where's Beersheba?
I can't. It's a good question. I can't answer it. I don't know.
Okay, it's not Beersheba either.
Oh no, don't know. All right. Okay, but now keep in mind in verse 4 it said he says to Beit Yisrael, Dershuni v'chayu, right? Seek me and live. Here he says, Al tidreshu these places, right? All right, let's go on now to verse 6. What does it say?
Tidreshu.
Right.
But God,
et Adonai b'chiyu, right? Seek God and live again, because what's going to happen? Pen lest yitzlach ka'esh Beit Yosef ve'achla ve'ein mechabeh. Because so seek Adonai and live. Otherwise, God will rush out like fire and consume Beit Yosef, and will eat it, and no one can put it out. Okay?
He's predicting the Palisades.
Yeah, well, not too far. That's right.
Anyway. And why the house of Joseph, but not the rest of it?
Because this section began, seek God and live, this section began with Beit Yisrael. And it ends with Beit Yosef.
Right.
So he's got them coming and going. In other words, no matter what you want to call it, Israel, Jacob, Joseph, right? Yosef was the father of Ephraim. Ephraim is the northern kingdom. The point is using the various names differently, but similarly, in order to highlight each one, right?
Okay.
That's the reason. That's it. Very simple. He's playing around with the various honorific names. Even this is Israel, Beit Yisrael. The word by it, right? The house of Israel, the house. And when you talk about a house, what are you defining? a place of strength and comfort and protection and wholeness and goodness, right? And what has happened to these houses? Gone. And that's what's going to happen to Beit Yisrael and to Beit Yosef. It's going to go bye-bye. No protection, no warm, fuzzy, cozy place to stay, no family, no people. Goodbye. Okay? No matter what you call them, it's the same thing. Okay? All right. Okay, now, interesting just to point out that the use of Aish here, does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Aish, the Aish that comes in and devours. You remember?
The tree with Moses?
No, here, in Amos.
Right.
Chapter 1, chapter 2. Chapter 1, verse 4, verse 7, verse 10, verse 12, verse 14, chapter 2, verse 2, verse 5. All of the 7 cursed locations, including Judah, are consumed with fire.
Oh. I don't remember
Harking back, and you see it's subsequent. There's some other references too, but if you really want to see it laid out, go back to chapter 1. So this is a common theme that he has, and the point is that for speaking about God, it's a perfect weapon, because a fire is often associated with God, right? Somebody said before, I think Barbara did, the burning bush. God spoke from the fire, right? When God comes down on Mount Sinai to speak, it's accompanied with, it says brakim, but also it says Aish. In Deuteronomy, again, which is later than he, but nonetheless, God speaks from the fire. Right? When Elijah has his vision on the mountaintop, the third thing that appears is Aish, but God didn't speak from the Aish, right? So these are expressions of divine presence and or power, and here he's using that for an expression of God's punitive power. So it's a natural. Think about it. It is sound and light, but no substance. It's non-material, and it's powerful. If you put your hand in it, it gets burned, right? That's the power of God's anger and the capacity that it has to explode and devour these. Got it? So this is now talking about Beit. He's not talking about a single town here. He's talking about Beit Yosef, and by echoing Beit Yisrael, who are not seeking God. That's the whole point. They didn't listen, right? And how do we know that they are not seeking God? Verse 7. Remember, this is the first of, so this is the C element now, the complaint. Okay? So this is why, what kind of people are these? This is what they seek. Okay? Hahofchim lalana mishpat utstaka la'aretz inichu. Right? You turn, you change judgment, into la'ana. I'll explain that again. It's a vegetable. And righteousness is cast down to the earth. Okay? So what is la'ana? Anybody remember from last week?
I remember you said something, but I don't remember what.
No, it's a green vegetable, a leafy green vegetable that is very bitter. In fact, it's used in the Angostura bitters. I believe they use what we would call lana, bitter. It's used for mixing in drinks, and it's also in moderate portions can be used for medicinal purposes. But if taken in large doses, it's poison. So at best, it's bitter. At worst, it's poisonous. So hopchim, you turn, you change, Now imagine, who is it that would be working with la'ana for medicinal purposes? A healer or a magician, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's the guy who would be mixing it up. So it's as if they are these apothecaries, right? Working with this la'ana, or working with mishpat, and converting it magically, boom, it's now, the justice has become la'ana, which is what?
Or it could be poison.
Bitter or poisonous, right? A bad thing.
Yeah.
They reverse, they are just reconfiguring and repurposing, so to speak, negatively, one of the most important principles in Judaism, justice. That's what they do.
That's the wormwood is the lava.
Yeah, that's wormwood. That's right. Yeah.
That's wormwood. Okay.
I didn't mention that word. That's right. That's wormwood. Right. Okay. Now, the second part, of course, when you take something, just simply throw it down into the dust, in the dirt, what are you doing? You're just rejecting it. It's garbage.
Yeah, throwing it away.
It's cast around like garbage. Okay, so this is an immediate response to the implicit question from up above. They're not seeking God. So what are they doing instead? Instead, this is what they do. Okay? And this is sort of a carry on. It says, Hahofchim, you who are those who change justice into la'ana. All right? And this is a chiasm. I mentioned it last week. You have it's an ABC CBA chiasm. So the A's are hofchim at the beginning and hinichu at the end. Those are the verbs. In the middle is la'ana and eretz. That's the bads, the bad things, right? That represent the bad stuff, the bad thing that's happening. Here it's la'ana, and there it's being on the ground. And the third thing, mishpat and tzedakah, of course, are parallel. So you got it? A, B, C. A, hofchim hinichu. B, la'ana eretz. C, mishpat and tzedakah. Pardon me, take a drink, just a minute.
Okay.
Now that verb is niach, right? The verb is niach.
It's from Noach.
It's from Noach. Yeah.
It means
it's to rest, right? So
Yeah,
but here we get into the hepil. You're throwing it.
That doesn't mean throw. Lahaniach really means to put down. But you got on. But think of what he means. It doesn't mean you gently placed it. It means you just threw it down to the ground. That's what he's saying. He's using it loosely, but it's the same thing. Lanuach, right? To rest.
Yeah.
Nucha. I mean, all those things. Lahaniach. It's a hipil form.
Right.
Cause to rest.
I was confused because I thought that the Noach verb meant to rest, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, well, no, it does. It does.
Yeah, I know. I heard you say that. You agreed, didn't
you? Yeah. But this is another version of it, another sub-meaning to it. That's all. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he feels changes meanings, though.
Yes. It does. Yes. Yeah. All right. Anyhow, and by the way, just in terms of I looked this up out of curiosity. The terms mishpat and tzedakah as a pair are found 26 times in the Bible in a whole variety. I mean, both words are found multiple times, but they are actually brought together in the same verse or in the same, like here, in many situations. So referring,
in mishpat,
even though they are. Well, no, the fact is, here they are right next to each other, right? Mishpat, tzedakah, da. So mishpat and tzedakah are right with each other. Sometimes it's tzedakah mishpat, sometimes it's mishpat tzedakah. because they're both two sides of the same coin, basically. Okay? So you never take a guess. Where do you think the first use of mishpat and tzedakah together can be found?
In Mishpatim.
Good idea. No.
How about the Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yeah.
section?
Whoa, Tybal, my goodness gracious. You get 5 points for that one.
What can I do with those
Somebody read
points?
stamps.
Points, put them on the wall. All right, anyway, it'll remind you how brilliant you were tonight. Okay. So generous.
He's always brilliant.
Yes, I know. Of course, that's why I can say this. All right, anyway. Genesis 18:19, right? Yadati loman asher yitzavet banav et beito acharav. Right? I know this is God talking why he's going to tell Abraham about what those angels are going to do in Sodom and Gomorrah. Right. So I know him well enough that he will tell his children and his household after him, V'shamru derech Adonai, and they will, now here, right, walk the path of God, right? Walk the path of God to do what? Lasot tzedakah umishpat, to do righteousness and justice. So that's the first time they're lumped together, right? Okay? And that's, the point is, God is now saying, it's really ironic. I didn't realize this till just now. The irony is, this is the first time that term is used with respect to Abraham, and what he expects Abraham will teach his descendants, right, and his house after him, that this will become a legacy of Abraham to his descendants. And what is Amos telling us has happened here?
No, that there is no justice, or
the exact opposite has happened. These people who are the heirs to the legacy of Abraham, I'm not saying that he has this in mind, but maybe he does. I don't know, because he doesn't talk about Abraham anywhere, not here. But the point is, these were such fundamental principles that people who were the spiritual leaders of the people knew this was part of what Abraham's legacy was. And the irony being now, Dafka, this people that are the heirs to that legacy, this is what they're doing to it. They're debasing it, they're destroying it, they're, rendering it meaningless to them, because it is meaningless. Okay, turning the page. Now we find the doxology, right? We talked about this last time. Right? With we talked about the constellations, remember? Osei chima uchsil. Okay, so God, well, let me just say that. V'hofech laboker tzalmavet, v'yom laila hecheshich. Okay, so God creates the Chima and Chesil, Pleiades and Orion. That's our best guess as to what he's talking about. V'hofech laboker tzalmavet, and he changes the morning into darkness, right? V'yom laila hecheshich, and he causes he makes the day into the darkness of light. He makes dark the day into night. Okay, then it goes on. Hakorei lemei hayam, he calls to the waters of the sea. Vayishpechem al pnei haaretz, and he pours them out onto the face of the land. Adonai Shmo. Okay. So what he's doing here is this doxology, remember, which is a song, if you will, of praise for our God. Okay. And we're gonna right. Yeah. Okay. I'm just checking something here. Okay. So this is what God does. And again, this is a statement of God's might. And you have here 3 different elements followed by 2 different elements in the structure here, right? So you have Ksil, Kima Ksil, the constellations, and then a repeat. Morning becomes darkness, day becomes night. And in both places, darkness, darkness. So, and it is quasi-poetic, because you have 3 words, 3 words, and 3 words. And then you have, well, in Korei li'mei yam v'yishbechem al pnei haaretz. That's 3 and 2 with the dashes. The point here is, however, that these are all expressing how this power controls the cosmic, right? Both if up in the sky, yes, the stars, these constellations, and the sun and the moon, and the sun in particular, and then down below, the water and the land, okay? And he basically, God plays around with these things. He's got the power to do it. Now, the notion of these 2 things, Chima and Kasil, which I think I may mention it last time, but it's worth reviewing. These are not stars, as far as we know. In the Bible, people who know of the Bible better than I refer to them as constellations. That's why I said Orion and Pleiades. Those aren't the names of stars, individual stars. They're constellations. And apparently they've learned this from parallel usages of these words in other literature from ancient times. So why does he mention constellations and not just individual stars? I mean, he could know Mars. He could know Mars, he could know Venus, et cetera, et cetera. Tybal, what?
Because the promise to Abraham was numerous as the stars, and if their constellations are aggregations. I mean, I think it's an implicit reinforcement of the covenant that wasn't being lived up to.
It's possible, yeah, but I think that the second part of what you said, though, I think is more cogent in this, which is these groupings of stars. It's not just that God can manage the movement of the stars, but he can actually move stars into positions where they come to represent some power, unique powers. Remember, astrology for thousands of years, including biblical times, was a powerful science. It wasn't just gobbledygook. People believed that there was power, divine power being expressed in these constellations because they were crafted by God in different shapes. Okay.
Well, because of their orientations relative to us, and because of distance.
Of course, yes.
Many of these constellations tended to look like they were moving around, but they were moving as a group.
Yes.
So they associated the group as a group, as something, not as just a bunch of things moving randomly about.
Exactly. Right. And they move, there was a cycle as well. And you can see, or you will see Orion at a certain point during the year, at a certain point in the heaven. And that's sure, exactly. But that's all a divine process. So this is the power of God. Not only does he make the stars and place them in the heavens, but he plays around with them in heaven. And as a result of that, there's even more bursts of power into the universe, and that can come down to earth and affect us. And that's what astrology is all about, isn't it? But let me finish. 1 second.
I'm sorry.
There's only one through the Middle Ages, and I haven't traced this beyond, let's say, 16th century. As far as I know, there's only one Jewish philosopher or mystic who said that astrology is Tsiganibupkis. Who said that? He didn't speak Yiddish, I guarantee you. Only one philosopher, Tybal.
Because you said that, I'm going to say Abraham Avalafia.
Wrong.
But he didn't speak Yiddish.
Maimonides?
Who just said that?
I did. Gabriella.
What did you say?
Gabriella.
Yes.
Rambam.
Rambam.
Is irrational.
Maimonides is the only one who said that astrology is worth it. The only one.
He's very rational.
Well, he was
The
a
doctor.
rationalist.
Well, no, there are other philosophers, but as far as I know, none of them picked up on that point. I mean, I've read about it, and people say this is the only one. So I've read the statement too. I forgot where it is right now, but I did read the statement that he made. Yes, absolutely. So that shows you how prevalent it was, and it's here too. Absolutely here. And this is not the only place they're mentioned. Last time I did review with you a few places. I'm not going to go back and look at it, but yeah, there are places. It's not the only place in the Bible where you see these mentioned. All right. At one point, another place they're also mentioned as coming together. Sometimes they're mentioned separately. It's only like 4 or 5 times, as I call it. It's not very common, but it's there. Tybal.
So all the archaeology discoveries of the synagogues in Galilee with the zodiac mosaics.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's astrology too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's exactly
The zodiac, that's it. Mm-hmm.
What does Sal Mavet mean? I mean, the Mavet means death.
I mean, it sounds like it's a composite. Sail means shadow, so it's the shadow of death.
Oh.
Okay, but I don't think it is though. I think it has another Salmut. I think hold on, give me a moment. 1 second. I'm going to just look right now in my KB because you piqued my curiosity. So let me see. He might be too hard to find.
Well, I was piqued too.
Here we are.
It's a Psalm 23rd, isn't it?
No.
23rd Psalm. Psalm Mavet.
Yeah, though I walk in the shadow of death, of course. There it is. Sal Mavet. All right, probably by popular folk etymology from Sail and Mavet. However, it means gloom.
Gloom.
Dark, in other words, darkness that you can feel deeper than.
So that's the deep darkness, that you can feel. Okay.
Exactly. But it says.
It's not just darkness, but it's this heaviness that we've talked about in the past.
Well, it's darkness you can cut with a knife.
Yeah.
They're impenetrable gloom, pitch, darkness.
Okay. Thank you.
Whether, in here he mentions Amos, so it's always, to do with Choshech. But whether it is in fact, to say a shadow of death, and I think it probably, I'm wondering if it can have something to do with the word Selam, the image of darkness as well. But I don't know.
Thank you.
But it seems to be, and it's death, I'm not going to, who am I to come down and make a categorical statement about it? I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Anyhow,
Okay.
but it's bad, it's real heavy duty stuff. And it's important here because Boker, right? Boom, first flash of light coming, right? And then suddenly, bluch, comes in afterwards. All right. So the point is, so he's saying all these things. So there's a rhetorical process going on. He's saying, there's somebody who made Kiman Kasil, and there's somebody who makes the morning into deep darkness, and there's someone who's got the power to cause the day to end in darkness. Okay? And this is a guy who can take the waters of the ocean and dump them on the land, make a huge storm, a hurricane that literally picks up tons of water and splashes it all over the place and floods everything. All right, who is it that can do that? And
Hashem.
And he says, Adonai Shemo. He saves it for the end. He's building this whole thing up. This is amazing stuff. And guess who does it? It's Adonai, right?
But
and so
this to me sounds like he's taking it from Genesis, when God did all this.
Yes. Especially this notion of taking the water and pouring it over the land. It's sort of like an undoing of Genesis, right? Right? Because he separates everything there, right?
Imagine if we had no oceans.
He separates light from darkness, and here he's just changing it around. It almost as if he can create. Yeah, he can create a whatchamacallit of the sun. Help.
Eclipse.
Thank you. An eclipse of the sun. Right. An eclipse of the sun. Boom. Sun's gone. Bye. And brings it back. So these are the things I think these are all the things. So the point though is, it's in the heavens he does it, and on earth as well. So this is a source of great power. And so what is he going to do? Verse 9. And see, this is
go to 8.
This is a continuation of 8. Hamavlig shod al az, v'shod al nivtzar yavo. All right. It means, now the word mavlig, that root beit lamed gimel, is very rare in the Bible. Nobody knows exactly what it means. Are you ready for this? It can mean to hurl, which that's what the JPS uses here. To flash, meaning suddenly. It can mean to bring something mighty. But guess what? In the modern Alkali dictionary, you know what it means? To restrain.
What? To restrain.
To refrain from doing something. The exact opposite. To hold back. Don't ask me what it means. But I think in the context here, that he can do suddenly, hurl with great force, destruction on that which is strong, translated here as stronghold, because of what it says in the second part, and cause destruction to come on a mivtzar, which is a fortress. In other words, basically what it's saying is, this is almost a joke. Guys, he's saying to Israel, this God who does all those things, hello, what do you think a destroying of a city is to him? It's a nothing. It's a sneeze, if that. In fact, it's probably less than a sneeze, because with the sneeze, he would blow it all away. Okay? So this is the God, Hashem Shemo, Adonai Shemo, God. Adonai is his name. And this is the same guy that's going to punish you. This is what you want? Okay, you're up for it. Great. All right? So now we're reverting back to the complaint. Okay, remember in the chiasm. So that was the doxology, the statement of praise that comes with that kicker, the zinger at the second part, right? Doxologies don't always have a zinger on them. This one, the statement of great power and praise within God, comes with the zinger at the end. And now it's going to explain the details of the complaint that preceded the doxology. So what exactly was it that the Israelites did? So he's going to now harp over some stuff. It going to sound familiar, all right? But because he's making his point again, all right? So, San'u v'sha'ar mochiach v'dover tamim yitavu. They hated the mochiach in the gate. And they detest, yitavu, they test the one whose plea is just. Dover tamim. All right? It means that it's a legitimate plea that he is making. But they detest them. In other words, justice has no place in their outlook. Zero. The mochiach, Lahochiach has many meanings. It can mean to prove, but it can also mean to here he says arbiter, right? A person who tries to come to a legitimate judgment based upon the evidence at hand. And why the gate? Again, the gate is where the court met. Okay? So again, this is a perversion of justice. Okay? It's anathema to these people. They say yitavu. It's disgusting to them. It's a toeva, right? It's a toeva. It's a disgusting, horrible thing. That's what they're saying. So a person comes forward with a tamim, with a valid, pure, whole argument in their defense, they hate it. Or in their bringing a charge against someone. But it's a good case, solid case. They hate it. Okay? That's it. All right. Now, It continues. Lachen ya'an boshaschem al dal umasat bar tikchu mimenu bate gazit benitem velo teshvu bam karmei chemed natatem velo tishtu et yenam. Okay, because you have been boshasim al dal, boshes. The verb is beit shin samach. Guys, I want to remind you once again, what have we come upon? What is this? It's a word, not the meaning, but the fact of its existence. Remember the word?
Ucha.
No, not the meaning of the word.
Oh.
It's existential reality. It's a hapax legomenon, folks.
What?
A what?
A hapax. You've heard that
What's
word
a hapax?
about 10 times. I think
I forget it.
What's a hapax?
No idea.
It's a one-time only, isn't it?
One-time only word.
Oh.
Okay, all right, here's the thing. Your assignment within the next 48 hours. You're going to send me on a piece of paper. You send me an email with the word hapax written. Hapax equals one time only. One time only word. Hapax.
How do you spell hapax?
Hapax.
Oh, no, in Hebrew.
Hapax. It's not a Hebrew word.
That's Hebrew?
No.
That's Hebrew?
No.
It's Latin, isn't it?
Oh, it's an English word.
It's Latin or Greek.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Greek.
Okay.
I think the full
Hapax.
term is hapax legomenon.
Huh?
Hapax legomenon.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Hapax.
Okay.
Word found once in Bible. Write that 10 times and send it. And if you don't, you will fail this class.
Good. I fail.
Me too.
All right. Okay.
I got better things to do.
But my point is, this is he
That's
loves
interesting, though.
Guy loves hapaxes. Now I don't know if he's making it up or not. The truth is, this word is a relative of the Hebrew root beit vav samach, bos or bos,
Bashas.
or boses.
Boses.
Beit vav samach, and the shin and the samach flipped here. It's a cousin. That happens in the Bible. So what it means...
that happens in Hebrew occasionally, too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, well, I'm saying in Hebrew here. It happens.
Yeah.
It does. Yes. So anyhow, it means literally to tread upon, to step down upon.
Mhm.
All right, so from the context here, so all it says is these people step down, they tread upon the poor. What does that mean? Okay. And the second part will tell it to us. Umasat bar titchu mimenu. And they take from him a portion, a levy of grain.
Mm.
Bar means grain. Masa means a portion, a levy. Okay? So the assumption is this is the word boshes would be to impose something difficult on the poor people that has to do with value of some kind. So they're presuming that this is a form of a tax. So that's what they say. They exact a heavy, they impose a tax on the poor.
It's like a poor person wrote this because mimenu means from us, not from
No,
them.
mimenu means from him. It can mean from him as well. It means both. No, it can mean him. But where am I going here? Yes. So it says this is what they do, and what do? They build homes of beautiful stone, cut stone, right? Hewn stone. And so what's going to happen? You're not going to get to live within them. And you take that money and you plant these wonderful, luscious, beautiful vineyards. And guess what, folks? you're not going to be able to drink the wine. Why? Because you're going to go bye-bye. You're not going to be here. You're going to be either dead or in some foreign country. Okay? That's what's going to happen. I mean, that's by implication. He said it often enough, right? So we know that's what he's talking about. And again, he's using a home, right? He loves to talk about buildings. He just got finished talking about fortresses. So, I mean, again, you can see there's generally an urban setting to a lot of what he writes because he's basically speaking at either Beit El or in Shomron, in Samaria. So these are urban settings, small. I mean, they're not huge towns, but they're urban settings. And he is by nature a farmer, right, and a herdsman. So he knows the outside. He's from the south. He does, whatever kind of property he has. But for him, the city with its image of strength and these homes, these beautiful homes that these people built, nothing new. They have found, I know, in archaeological research, in biblical times, in the Second Temple times, they have found in Israel beautiful homes of the wealthy. And they built like today. Nothing's new. Okay? All right. Now moving on. Ki yadati, right? I know. The complaint continues. Rabim pisheichem ve'atzumim chatotechem. He says, I know quite very well, yadati. It's not just I know or noted. Yadati, I really know well. Remember, Yodea really means in-depth knowledge. I know very well how many are your sins and how strong, how you can say, they say countless, how many are your crimes and countless your sins. Atzum, it means the number is a mighty number, right? It's an overwhelming number of sins. Tzorei tzaddik, you who are the enemies of the righteous, you who are lokchei kofer, you take bribes, and you who are evyonim basha'ar hitu, and you pervert justice in the gate when it comes to poor people. Okay, you pervert justice in the gate when you're dealing with a poor person. All right, this is who you are. Again, you are totally unjust. You are totally unjust, and many, many, many times over. It's almost like it's ingrained within you. Okay. Now, then he goes on. Lachein hamaskil ba'et hahi yidom. Okay, ki et ra'ahi. Now, this is a line that I'm going to need help with. Okay, it says the maskil, the prudent. He says, assuredly, at such a time, the prudent, that's the maskil, keeps silent, for it's an evil time. Mm-hmm. Okay, the maskil, you hear the word seichel, right?
Yeah.
A person with common sense. It means, again, knowledge, right? Who knows, they know a lot. Right, but here, I like the translation here, okay? It's a prudent person. What do? They say, keep silent, because it's a bad time. Okay. Taiba.
I think Gabriella said it too, but isn't it the same root as Haskalah, enlightenment?
Yes, it has to do with knowledge, enlightenment, learning. Yes, of course, Haskalah.
The learned person.
That's what it means. Right, it has to do. Maskil means that's what they used to call people who were proponents of the Haskalah in the period from 1750 to 1850 in Western Europe, in modern Europe. Yes, they were maskil. They were called maskilim. It was called the Haskalah. It's like chokhmah, right? It can mean proficiency also. Lamaskil, right? It's used in Psalms, the conductor or the expert. It has all kinds of meaning. But basically, yes, it's a deep knowledge and awareness of something. That's what this is. It's also seichel is the root, yes. But the point here is, the problem is, it's saying, so a person who is knowledgeable, a wise person, will be very prudent. Is a prudent person, because it's time. He would be quiet. He would say nothing about all of this because it's a bad time. What does that mean?
We don't know.
Well, it's horrible because people are perverting justice and doing bad things, so it's a bad time.
A smart person won't open his mouth and say anything about it.
Yeah, they're afraid to say anything.
They're what?
According to Steinsaltz,
Yeah.
Opening your mouth can get you into trouble.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Right. Yeah. So it means shut up.
Shut up.
Don't say anything. You think is he advocating that?
Well, he's not doing it himself. He's certainly expressing his...
he's doing the exact opposite, isn't he?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
The wise person, he means he presents himself as someone with a lot of common sense and is a representative of God. He doesn't represent himself as a high learner or this or that, but he knows justice when he sees it, and he knows injustice when.
I think
we've heard that his words are not his own. He is a representative of God. He's not speaking for himself. If he was speaking for himself, he'd keep quiet.
Perhaps.
Well, he's not a maskil. He doesn't consider himself necessarily a maskil.
It's not him.
We don't look, but he demonstrates.
But
the truth is, he is a maskil, because this guy is filled with a lot of knowledge, right? Of chokhmah, right? He knows weather. He knows about the planets. The guy is a smart guy. So
I wasn't casting aspersions.
But I think Leon, what Leon mentioned, though, just a second, what Leon mentioned before, I think is close to it. He understands that he is speaking the word of God, that God basically has control over his mouth, and as to a certain extent, his mind, all right? But I don't think he opposes God on this. Never does he do like Jeremiah and complain, what are you doing to me? Right? He's totally into this.
I think,
let me just finish the thought. Okay, then Ellie, I seem to want to say something. Hold on. I think he's saying this sarcastically. That this is what people say, right? What should happen is the people who are smart and understand should get together and not just think as individuals. But this is right. This is human nature. Fear shuts them up. Fear. Sound familiar? Fear shuts them up.
Oh, yes.
I just want to add, it says ki et la'ahi, which means that if they would open their mouths, they will be hurt. Ki et la'ahi.
Right. Hold on.
There will be consequences to the masculine if they will.
Of course, yeah. They feel.
Et la'ahi. It's not just that.
Yes, exactly.
Et la'ahi.
Yeah.
I think an important thing here is that the prudent or the smart ones have to keep silent, since it's an evil time, and if you open your mouth, you're liable to die by the evil people.
Well, it's possible, yes. I mean, but he was willing to remember. He even though he's a prophet can say, "I've had enough." I mean, again, I'll point to Jeremiah. He complains to God. What's going on here? I keep yelling at you. Elijah the prophet yells at God, right? He did twice on Mount Sinai. He said, "We are sticking up for you, but they're killing us," right? And this is not because God told him to. He's standing up to God. That's what a prophet's supposed to do. Okay, a prophet is supposed to, and the truth is, it's what's interesting is so far, he hasn't said anything to God. Why aren't you changing the situation here? He hasn't said that. He has not argued with God. And as far as I recall, I don't think he ever does. He doesn't. You've got psalmists who argue with God. We studied them, right? We studied. They yell at God. So you'd think he would do that at least. But I think the point here is, it's almost based upon what he has so far told us, is that it doesn't matter that they keep their mouths shut, because this people is so corrupt that it wouldn't make any difference, and they understand that. The flip side, he is recognizing the reality here. It's not that their lives are at risk. He says if they were to open their mouths, nothing's going to happen, because the evil has permeated this people to such a degree and that's basically what he's been saying all along, right? The end is going to be here. Okay, at the end of this chapter, which we may not get to for another couple of months, because we're over time now. But I want to finish this up, because there's the next few parts we can go through quickly. But the point is, I think that may be it. It's not the matter that they're afraid. They're wise, because they know it's not going to make a difference. They're not afraid. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. They agree with him. A prudent person would agree with the prophet. They've crossed the line. Can't go back. It's done. And that's why he's been saying it fits in exactly with everything he's been saying up until now here in chapter 5. You had your chance. You've been warned. We tell you over and over again. I'm telling you again, this is this God who does all these powerful things. I've said it before. I'm saying it again. But I know you're going to be that virgin, that young lady, that young woman lying there on the street. Nobody there to help you. That's what it's going to be. You're not going to live in your nice, beautiful house. You're not going to drink any wine. You're going to be out there exposed to everything. Because nobody's going to be there to help you. Because God sent them all away. And that's it. He keeps yelling at him, though. He doesn't give up. He doesn't give up. All right, quickly. So then now we're going back to remember, seek God and live. Right, we had that before. It repeats itself now once again. Hate evil, love God, do good so that you may live. He says, remember, this is what we've told you, right? This is what we've told you. This is God, Adonai, God of the hosts. This powerful God runs everything. Okay? One more time, I'm reminding you, I share this wisdom, but of course, you're not going to do it. Therefore, Ko Amar Adonai Elei Tzvaot. This is what God's saying. Again, a bereavement. B'chol rechabot mispeid b'chol chutzot yomru ho ho. Right? In every square there shall be lamenting, and in every street everybody cries, woe, woe, woe is me. Ikaru ikar el evil. They call in a farmer into the town because of the need because of all the grieving, the lamenting that goes on, right? And for him to respond to that, to do words of comfort and so forth. Umisped el yodei nehi. And so they call for people who know how to lament and wail to do a hesped, to do an elegy, to mourn. Okay? So they have to call in people to do these things because there's nobody around. Okay? And this continues now into verse 17, that it's not just in the city, because it says, Ubechol kramim misped. But they're lamenting in the vineyards as well. Remember, he mentioned vineyards before. Your beautiful vineyards, right? Right, you're not going to be able to enjoy them because everybody's been killed, right? Ki he'evir, ki evor b'kir bechem amar Adonai. Because I am going to pass through your midst, said Adonai. This is what's going to happen when I come through. Okay?
It reminds you of the last plague.
Yeah.
Except that he's going now he's going to get get rid of the or make fall down the punish the Jews rather than spare them.
Right. This is the Jews are going to get hit with it. Exactly. Well, I mean, the other plagues were, in a sense, all warnings.
Yeah. What God can do.
Right.
The power of God.
In place. Right. Remember, I've taught this before. The first 5 plagues, Pharaoh hardens his own heart. It does not say God hardened his heart.
Right.
It's only on plagues 6, 8, 9, and 10 that it says, and God hardened his heart.
Right.
And the rabbis say a person develops a pattern of behavior. They can't change it. That's Rembaum. Sorry, that's Rembaum. But the rabbis say if a person develops that and God warns and warns and warns, at a certain point in time, he says, okay, I've warned you. You have really made up your mind. Fine. I'm now locking it in. You cannot change your mind. I waited patiently.
Yeah.
You showed me you don't want to change your mind. Fine, I'll make sure you don't change your mind. That makes very good sense, and it's true. I mean, you can say something over and over and over again till you really, really, really believe it.
Yeah.
Right? And it blinds your mind to anything else that might happen. And then, so basically you're stuck.
Yeah.
You've done that to yourself. So people who say that God, played around with Pharaoh, God did not play around with Pharaoh. Pharaoh played around with Pharaoh. Okay. All right, folks. So remember, I want to see that page with the 10 apex.
Dream on. Dream on.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.